Hey everybody, what it is? Welcome into a Teal Town USA live right here with tealtownusa.com. We're going to get into the media call that Jonathan Becher held today with, funnily enough, the media. I think that's why they call it a media call, but we can neither confirm nor deny. Before we get into it, though, do us a favor and follow us on all the social media channels: YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Reddit. It's all good. Feel like supporting the show? You can hit us up in the tip jar on Venmo at Tealtown USA. So with that, it's me and Putt Guy here, and it's time to get into what was talked about today with Jonathan Becher, Sharks GM, and the media. Mid-season check-in. I mean, a little after mid-season, sure.
Right. It's just one of those things that he usually does, and it's kind of like the old state of the Sharks a little bit. AJ, granted, those used to be during the summertime, but nice to get a barometer of what this organization's thinking at this time, and especially this year, considering we've seen the attendance issues, we've seen, of course, everything going on with the pandemic over the last few years. Interesting to see what Becher brought in today.
Yeah, it's it was something. Anyway, excuse me.
That's been an understatement.
Yeah, let's get into, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I know people probably think I do. So let's get into the first round of comments from Jonathan Becher, who talked about low attendance and the cause for it.
And the reality is the pandemic is dramatically impacting people's comforts coming back to events. If I look at the NHL reports, all three California teams are seeing a year-over-year decrease somewhere between 20 and 25%. There are actually quite a few teams outside of California that are seeing 10% decrease, and there's one team that's seeing a 40% decrease. We've done fan surveys, both for Sharks and actually for concerts as well. I think some of you have done your own surveys as well. I've seen those on the web. The dominant reason is COVID. Some people are not comfortable coming back to mega events, 5, 10,000 and more people. Frankly, some people are comfortable, but they don't want to deal with vax, boosters, masks, etc. Here in the Silicon Valley, remote work is a huge deal. And there are a lot of companies that won't let their employees come to big events. They can't host customers, etc., which is a big part of our fan base historically. We know, we've read it in the papers. People have moved away, at least temporarily, for the Bay Area. We'll see. But by far the biggest issue affecting attendance is the mandates. NHL, state, county, city, feels like we have more mandates than any other venue in the United States. Yeah, of course, team performance is going to be a little bit of a factor as well, but it's always way down the survey based on COVID.
So, based on what Jonathan Becher is saying, is that if you're concerned about the lack of attendance for Sharks games, blame COVID.
I get that, and he's bang on about remote, working. But as we heard later in the call, it's like, so why are the Warriors selling out? In an indoor facility who had similar restrictions. Granted, I think they're a little more stringent in Santa Clara County, of course, even more so in San Jose. But I look at what the Niners did. They had a good one. Granted, that's an outdoor venue, but yeah, Chase Center. It's like that's a tough one. But he also mentioned that Chase Center had testing ready to go early on. They just now got to it, like within the last couple of home games. It's tough. In that, I mean, COVID's hit everywhere really hard, and I think it really hit the Sharks really badly. But you look up north from San Jose and like, okay, they're doing it. What's going on here?
Yeah, that's kind of where my head's at, as I'm sitting there thinking, I don't know how much I buy of that. Now, granted, he's got far more compelling data than I have, but one set of numbers that don't lie is when you look at the attendance numbers for the Warriors, you look at it for the Niners. Last we checked, Warriors were at 100% at Chase Center. Niners were, I believe, over 90%. I think they were somewhere close to like 95%. And like you said, outdoor venue, little bit different. But you can say, okay, it's COVID. And he mentioned on the call that very early in the season, I believe it was like the opening night, they had like over 15,000 tickets. Now, for whatever reason, I remember when Curtis Pashelka brought it up during that opening game. Well, he said, he made note of it on Twitter that it looks like some decent amount of seats are available. And Becher responded that we're sold out tonight. Now, again, we have to always say tickets sold is not the same as tickets used or tickets scanned. So they very well could have been sold out. However, not everybody used their tickets, which is something that Becher got into today, is that one of the things that is probably the largest impact of low attendance is season ticket holders simply not using their tickets. And let's be fair, let's be honest, I'm seeing people literally giving away their tickets, or at least trying to, whether it's on a Facebook or a Reddit or whatever social media channel. We've had a couple people that are nice enough that have reached out to Teal Town and said, hey, I'm not using my tickets tonight. If you want to help me give them away, go for it. And of course, we absolutely thank you so much for that opportunity. And so at least those tickets are going to get used, even though the person who purchased him unfortunately doesn't get any of their money back. But that's just the way it is. I mean, I think sports or season ticket holders realize this, that when it's good, you're going to be able to make a profit on your tickets. You never hear these season ticket holders complaining when they're selling playoff games for 40, 50% over face value. But boy, they, can't get 80% of their purchase price, and they're crying and screaming from the mountaintops. It's cyclical, man. So
it's like cryptocurrency a little bit.
Yeah.
You take that chance with what the company is trying to sell you. You take it, and sometimes it works out for you. Like we've seen it with, they had the push for the Stadium Series, had a big push there. They had the big push for the Cup Final, then another big push for to get All-Star tickets. I mean, there's been a great steady increase. Now you're kind of seeing it a little bit, and it's tough. And I get both sides, but at the same time, you get the good, but you also get the bad.
Well, I look at it is COVID part of it? Absolutely. You'd be idiots to say anything different than that. But I still take it a step further, that attendance was on the downswing before COVID. Now, whether you want to blame that on fans moving away, the Sharks not being able to appeal to the younger fan who's coming up, rising prices, people being priced out. Like, there's a lot of bricks in this wall. Mm-hmm. So most of the people that I've spoken with, it has nothing to do with COVID. Like, they're like, maybe I'm not going to go to every game, but I'm still going to pick some games that I'm definitely going to go to. The COVID thing, the mandate thing, that doesn't bother me, but it's the pricing. I feel that I'm being priced out, and that's, you can say that the Sharks are responding to that because ticket prices are coming down. I believe he said 5% on average across the board. So some people their ticket price might go down 10%. Somebody else might only go down 1%. Right. But across the board on average, going down 5%. But the parking is still $25 if you want to park at the tank. If you want to park near it, it's $25. It could be $20, $15, depending on where you park. Mm-hmm. Then there's still, how much is it for a beer? Well, that's $16. How much is it for a Pepsi? That's $12 or whatever. How much is it for a water? That's $9 if you go to Seattle, right? Right. The food and bev prices are a little a little cha-ching. You know, if you want like meat on your nachos from the taco thing at SAP, that's like $22. That's a lot of money to spend for nachos. So, well, I'll be interested to see if the pricing for food and bev, if that doesn't go down maybe 10% or something, at the very least, if it holds steady for the next 5 to 7 years. Because I remember going to games and it's like, I got a souvenir cup filled to the brim for like $10. And now I don't even know if they still have souvenir cups sometimes. You know, and it's 18.
I mean,
so.
I think it's just basically beer. Because I would take all those soda ones home.
Yeah, right? So anyway, Becher says they are on target to do over 15,000 sold for this Saturday. Again, we won't know until Saturday evening if all of them are used, but he says that lately they have been trending back upwards. But again, I'm gonna push back a little bit and say that's sales again versus what people when they go to a game and see it. You can tell everybody, yeah, we sold 14,000 tickets tonight. The unfortunate thing is only 9,000 were used. So we'll see what happens. Coincidentally, 3 things play into their favor this Saturday. You're playing Boston, pretty, team that travels somewhat well with their fan base. It's on a Saturday, and there's a giveaway at the door. So
yeah,
we'll see. And you're going to that as well, right? On Saturday?
Yep. Yeah, and Terry Smith will be dropping the puck for that one, which is cool.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that. That is fantastic. And then let's see what Sharks Lass has to say here. Do you think if the team was even winning, if fans still wouldn't go because they just don't know enough of the players anymore? Not like they're promoting them much. That is something that I brought up on the Pucknologist, that, you lost your 3 most popular players. Pavelski, Thornton, Marlowe, the ones that you had promoted the hell out of for 15 years. And aside from, I don't know, Carlson, Burns, Couture, I mean, that's literally it. You can say, okay, hurdle a little. But
I mean, think about who are the last 2 All-Stars for the Sharks?
Meyer
and Hurdle.
Yeah, and you don't see a lot of promotion.
Right. And remember what was it? The year of the outdoor game, they were pushing the youngsters hard. And I say youngsters because that was like 8 years ago, because now that was Vlasic, Pavelski, and Couture. And I think the year after, when
I don't think I would have called Vlasic a youngster back then, but go ahead.
Well, I mean, 8 years ago versus now. But I mean, they were kind of pushing those guys because we were talking to them about about the outdoor game and everything. But I mean, let's be honest, it was marketing Jumbo, Patty, and then here and there with Burns, here and there. I mean, we go back a little bit of ways with Heatley or Clough.
Boyle.
Boyle. I think the other tough part is that there isn't a big name that's standing out right now. With all due respect to the guys on the ice, and I mean, we all know them, but others don't, like randomly, like as you could say, versus Steph Curry or Debo Samuel or even Jimmy Garoppolo. There isn't one guy that's like going bonkers that well, let's be honest, the media hasn't caught on to it.
Mm-hmm. So even the game last night versus Anaheim, the Ducks crowd was over 13,000. So Anaheim's drawing better. Now, I don't know what their marketing is doing in SoCal, but I have 2 words for you. Trevor Zegras.
Exactly.
So
the guy himself has just been a big game changer. And when I was talking with Shalana last night regarding the shootout, we're like, okay, come on, let's see what you got here. And what does he do? He does something simple to get the shootout goal.
Oh, dude, Reimer fell asleep during that. So we move on here. Of course, everybody wants to know, with the revenue coming down for the Sharks because of the lower attendance, is that going to affect how the Sharks ice a team? I.e., does that mean they're not going to spend as much for their roster?
Is there any concern that the lower attendance will have an effect on what the team or management wants to do financially with it over the next couple of years?
I think the short answer to that, Corey, is no, but let me elaborate that a little bit, which is Hasso, as the owner, has had a long history of spending to the cap, wants a winning team, and the best way to get a winning team is to continue to spend to the cap. So that's been our history. I don't see any environment under which that would change. So no, and especially since we already started to see attendance starting to build for the last month or so of the regular season, and there are already some good signs for next year.
There you go. So with that, don't worry if even if we're not seeing the Sharks get as much revenue from ticketing and food and bev and whatnot, they are still committed to icing the best team that they can by spending to the cap. So I don't think that's anything that we need to worry about at this point.
And hats off to Hasso for allowing the front office staff to go spend to the cap. I mean, other teams like in this stage, whether it's a retool, reset, rebuild, whatever you want to call it, I mean, they would be cheaping. I mean, heaven forbid. You look at what Ottawa has been doing. Look at what Arizona is doing. I mean, they're just clinging on to the floor, for crying out loud. The Sharks are at least, I mean, granted, what 40% is committed to 4 people, but at the same time, at least you have those 4 people. You're not discounting the cap just because you're not doing great.
Well, and you bring up
they're
that
at least
40,
giving a damn.
That 40% where you said one team is down 40%. If that's not Arizona, I just don't know who the hell else it could be. I'm just saying.
Well, it's definitely gonna be another 40% next year.
Yeah.
Oh,
but season ticket holders not using their tickets, yeah, that's a large part of no attendance. But I think what people also forget is you sit there and go, well, what does it matter? Because if they're not using the tickets, the Sharks have already gotten paid on those. That is true. However, what do fans do when they get there? They typically buy food, buy beverage. Maybe there's a puck or a T-shirt or some tchotchke from the merch that they would pick up. So hello, parking. Not to mention how much does the city, the surrounding businesses, I'd love to know what they're trending at right now versus 2018, 2019. I'm sure that they're probably down a good 50% or so. So it's not just ticket sales. It's everything that goes with it. Now,
I mean, there's even some restaurants that have gone under, Peggy Sue's to name one.
To drop a name. So
hashtag no free ads. My bad.
One of the things that also was touched on is some new ticketing promotional ideas. This I'm interested to see and hear about more detail, but this is what Jonathan had to say at the time.
So a couple of new things that are coming as well is if you're subscribed to a subscription service like a Netflix or something, we're offering a Netflix membership next year also, where you can turn it on and off by the month. So maybe you want to come heavy in December, but not all in October. You can subscribe by the month. We tested it out last season. That was quite popular. So we're going to bring it back next year for every month as well. We're actually coming out with a quick in-bowl upgrade thing as well. So if you buy in the upper bowl, you could take a chance that a lower bowl seat might be available last minute and get it at a quote unquote bargain price as well. We're using something called teal tokens as an incentive, basically a reward program where anything you buy in the building, merchandise, food and beverage, tickets, etc., you get 3% cash back, and you can earn teal tokens in lots of different ways. Ultimately, those teal tokens will be available for online merchandising and probably over at Sharks Ice as well. So there's plenty of these kind of new ideas that are coming as to encourage attendance.
So this subscription model, I'm very interested in hearing more about that, because we all know about the what are the shark packs, right? Like it's like pick 10 games. You can get, like, it used to be, here are 4 different pack options. One includes opening night, one includes fan appreciation night, and then the other 2 will feature like an emphasis on, you know, the
weekend games,
Eastern teams, or weekend, whatever it is. There was always an emphasis on the other 2. This idea of a subscription model that it's like, you know what, my schedule's really jacked up in October, November, but it opens up in December, or I know I'm going to have time off because of the holidays and I can get to a lot of games that month. I'm dying to know more information about that. I'm sure we'll get a flood of it once this season is over. But I'm dying to hear more about how that's going to work out. This new subscription model could be interesting, because I do like the way that they changed the pack, where it ended up being like a pick 6 type of a thing, or whatever, where it's just kind of like, and I would love to see more teams do this idea where it's, look, I can't either by way of my schedule make it to games, or I simply just don't have the discretionary income to spend on 10 or 12 or 15 games, but I'm willing to pick up 6 if I can pick the 6 that I want to go to, and there you go. And that way, instead of a fan that might only go to like 2 or 3 games, they're saying, no, I'll do 6. Just let me pick the 6 and get a slightly reduced rate. That's a great idea.
It's a great idea, and to find other ways to not get stuck into an 11 pack like the Shark Pack. I've been a Shark Pack holder since 2009. I love it, having the 11 games and knowing which games I'm going to go to. But some, like that flexibility. Now
the Shark Pack, the Shark Pack though, you have the same seat every time. Yes.
Correct.
Okay. Now, one of the details about the subscription model was, you might not get the same seat every time.
Right.
Which,
as
long as, I don't have a problem with that, as long as it's within, like if I sit there and go, okay, I want this subscription, but I don't want to sit, like say upper bowl, I don't want to sit higher than like row 9. So if they can fit, like if one game is row 2, the next one's row 9, the next one's row 7, whatever. As long as they can kind of finesse that.
Yeah, I think I would think beneficially, and this is just hypothetical here, but keeping it within that same price range that you see on the seat map. I mean, you can move them around from 216 row 4 to, 217 row 8 or in that range of some sort. I mean, that'd be cool. The other thing is, a great marketing campaign, and Sharks Brass, if you are watching, if you're calling it a subscription, I think you need to make sure to say Sharks and Chill. I mean, come on.
All right, I'll give you that one. I don't know about that. But I'm going to be interested to see how that works. The teal tokens thing is another cool idea. I hope they stick with it, because remember a few years ago when they brought in the whole 365 thing, where they had food and bev vouchers that it seemed like a lot of the fans liked, and then they took it away the following year, and there was a large contingent of fans that were really pissed off. But if memory serves, the explanation was, well, only 20% of our ticket base were using them, so we didn't see. But it's that 20% though, we're using the hell out of them. So
right.
The token thing, I can definitely get behind, especially if this, because it's basically, it's like a credit card, the cash back from use. For those of you who got like a Costco card, you get your check once a year. I like the fact that with this teal tokens that eventually they're going to be able to expand it out, that like right now it's for food and bev credits, but down the line it can be to buy tickets for concerts that are there, or buy it use it at Solar for America, or use it for CUDA games, or use it for concerts that are held at SAP. I'm going to enjoy watching that expansion and see how that unfolds. I think if they keep it on that trajectory, I think that is one thing that fans that get teal tokens, season ticket holders, that is something that we will see a lot of use of. Now,
And he totally previewed that like 3-4 years ago with us when we talked with him and then co-president John Turturro about it.
who?
So it'll be interesting. Yeah, that guy. I don't know. I know you guys were connected at one time.
Yeah. Well, because, you know what? Once Remenda came back, I haven't said a word to that guy. That was the only thing I wanted. So another thing that Jonathan Becher spoke about was making some upgrades to SAP Center. I think we can all get behind that.
We do significant upgrades every year, including the year after the building opened. On average, we spend somewhere between 5 and 10 million in arena upgrades every summer when there's still events in the building, but not hockey. It's not quite as busy as it is during the regular year. Over the last couple of years in the pandemic, we did that as well. Many people noticed we rebuilt the ice plant. We broke into the foundation of the building, which was 33 years old, and replaced all the water pipes and the ice floor as well. We've switched out the escalators. We made the external concrete, which is the stairs, earthquake, because earthquakes codes had changed in the last 30 years as well. So I don't think we've ever announced the exact number. We spent significantly more improving the building than it cost the building to be built 30 years ago. And we're going to continue that process.
Now, of course, a smartass is going to go, well, if you've spent more in improvements than what the building was originally built for, why didn't you build a new arena? But I get it. For me, I don't know. I think SAP Center has aged beautifully. Could the concourses be a little wider? Sure. But you're talking to somebody who went to stuff at the Cow Palace, which is like walking down. It's about 3 people wide. Okay. I mean,
yeah.
Or, oh my Lord, if you ever went and walked around the upper concourse, it's not even a concourse, but if you were in the upper levels of Candlestick Park, there was like 2 people wide.
Oh yeah.
So it's they're making all these improvements, and so you, at the very least, you might not like certain aspects. You have to at least give them credit for continually pouring money to try to improve the facility. Think about how many teams aren't doing that. Think about owners that just sit there and go, nope, I'll take the loss on my books every year. So the fact that Hasso continues to do that, I think you have to give credit for that. It could be a very sad day when Hasso decides either he doesn't want to have the Sharks anymore, or if at whatever time Hasso passes on and his family decides we don't want to be in the hockey business and they sell off the team. My point being is that it could be much worse. So I think at that point you have to be grateful that we do have an owner that is willing to put all of these millions into the venue and spend to the cap year after year after year. Now, if we could just find a general manager who didn't keep no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
No, but yeah, I mean, you have to keep up with the times. I mean, it is a Silicon Valley, rink. You have all the kinds of technology evolving, like it seems like every other month.
Well, and we're right in the heart of the valley, so
exactly. And you have to keep up with the modern times, and Becher, the Sharks organization, have always said that they've always had that the arena has good bones to it that can easily be improved on. And yeah, I mean, it's a great place to play. I know there are some that are saying, a new rink wouldn't be too bad. I just don't know where you'd really put it if it's not in like lot A, B, and C.
Yeah, that's always going to be my question, is how is it that the city and Google, when they were first talking about the whole downtown West development, how the idea of a new arena wasn't broached in some capacity. I will not understand that, but then again, from things that I've heard, the city and Google, but more particularly the city, treat the Sharks as an afterthought, despite the thousands upon thousands of dollars they contribute to the city every year from their events and whatnot. But whatevs. Another thing about upgrades when it comes to SAP that Jonathan spoke about was some tweaks to food and beverage.
One of the most popular things on the concourse right now is called the market, where instead of having to wait in line to buy something, you can self-service, scan it yourself, and walk out. Even simpler if you have the app itself. We're going to do a lot more investment this summer for more self-service areas as well. It's faster, less reliant on part-time help that we can't get. One of those stands is now doing 5x this year than it did last year as well, et cetera. I talked about the digital wallet. We went cashless. We built an environment to create digital cards for people as well. We built the reward program. You're going to see a lot more investment in teal tokens going forward as well.
So I like that. I like the self-serve stuff for the most part. I mean, we've seen that introduced at places like Target, grocery centers, where you have your traditional checkout lanes, but then you also have the scan it yourself and check it out. Same principle. I like that. I did notice. I want to say it's by what's the section that has the shark. Oh my lord! Where they do the auctions, they show off things for auction. Where we usually meet for do meetups.
For meetups, like around 218, 219.
I want to say.
I
want to say by there's a serve yourself beer or beer fridge where they've got a whole bunch of different beers. My only beef, of course, with this, the thing that I'm going to complain about, of course, is that it's the beer selection for my tastes could be expanded.
And there's so many.
Can only do so many.
There's so many
Coors, Budweiser, Corona, Heineken, whatever. Like, come on, a little bit more in the way. Like, work with Hoppas. Logan Couture's working with them. Get Hoppas in there. Get Narrative Fermentations in there. Both of them local craft brewers. You've proven that you're willing to do it because, hello, Gordon Biersch. Get those guys in there, man, because those are some good beers. But the self-serve thing.
There's a great one up here.
Up there.
Sorry, there's a great up in Calicraft. I mean, that one's pretty good too.
How would you know? You don't drink beer.
Shh. Nobody needs to know that. Moving on.
Now, the thing that, of course, everybody is most excited about with some changes coming to SAP Center.
We are going to replace the center hung monitor in the bowl over the summer to make it significantly bigger and brighter and higher pixel ratio. The overall way to think about it is it'll have 2x the surface area that the current one has. For those of you who like numbers, it should be basically 23 feet tall and 164 feet of visible area. And it goes from 10 millimeter resolution down to 5.9 millimeter resolution. That's a non-linear scale. So it's basically twice the density as well. It'll have a lot of other changes as well, including an undersigned video that you can see as well, but that'll be a big visible thing that people see.
Okay, this has piqued my interest. This piques my interest. I don't know if anybody's seen the scoreboard or center hung display. We need the CHD. We're just going to call it that. But the center display, look, it's what we colloquially call the Jumbotron. Just like you call tissue Kleenex, you call a copy of Xerox. It's become the de facto term for the big goddamn screen above the center of the building. The Jumbotron. Right. So that's getting upgraded. If you've seen what United Center has in Chicago, I don't know that we're going to get to that point, but it's pretty badass. If I remember correctly, it actually has some moving parts where it expands and contracts.
That's in Philly.
Oh, that's in Philly? Okay, so you've got Philly.
That one.
Look at the one in Chicago. Last time I looked, the one at Chase Center, pretty fucking nice. So
same with Golden One Center in SAC.
There you go. So, and of course, the funniest part about this whole thing is that I literally got into a Twitter debate with somebody about this like 2 years ago about that I thought it was time to upgrade the Jumbotron. And then there was a whole debate as to when the last time it actually had been upgraded. For those of you who are unaware, it was 15 years ago, 2007. Think the same time that the Sharks also released their current logo. Not the one that Eric's wearing on his sweater right now, but the current one. So, not that OG shit, but the current one. Same thing. So, anyway, 15 years. It's definitely been time. You know, the original one hung there for almost 15. We're getting a new one after another 15. Again, not a cheap item. So, thank Uncle Hasso for investing.
And that's the thing. It's a city-owned building, but the Sharks have done almost all of the improvements themselves.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. And I do like Chris's comment in the chat. It says self-service Togos for $22 for a 6-inch sub. Dude, I'm right there with you. But how much is a 6-inch sub at a Togos today? It's about $14, man. Togo's prices have gone through the roof. But this is not a discussion about Togos. I also brought up the idea of what about speakers, right? I unfortunately didn't clip that. But when I asked about upgrading the sound system in the speakers, he said it is something that they are looking into, because the problem is that, of course, you have half the people saying, oh, my ears, it's too loud. And you have other people saying, what? Tell them to turn it up. I can't hear anything.
Right.
So, you know, the people that say it's too loud, of course, you can wear ear protection. Or I guess the people think it's too low can wear hearing aids. I don't know. But for me, I think the way around it is you're going to have to spend the money to upgrade your sound, your speaker raise. That sound system has been in there for basically 30 years. I know they've made some slight tweaks and adjustments, but fact of the matter is I've been going to concerts now, you know, forever. And I remember going to concerts, and it was just big-ass stack of speakers here, big-ass stack of speakers here, and we're just going to throw all this audio out there. And so if you're within 100 yards, you're going to get your shoes shaken off. But if you're 300 yards away, it's like, oh, it sounds beautiful. And if you're 500 yards away, you're going, I can't hear anything. So speaker arrays, now you go to venues like the Mountain Winery in Saratoga. Shoreline has had significant upgrades. And the great thing is that when you tune a speaker system properly and you have a lot of speakers, you can really dial in clear sound that is rich but doesn't overwhelm you. But the best thing is it's crystal clear, and it's at a volume that is, you know, is not overwhelming, but you're not straining to hear things either. That's something that I believe the Sharks will need to look at very soon. I mean, let's be honest, that sound system, it's still tuned for the Casio version of Rock and Roll Part 2 that they used to do all the time whenever the Sharks scored. I will die on the hill that's the reason why 6 a.m.'s Let's Go didn't work as their song, because you couldn't hear it because the sound system wasn't tuned correctly for it. It's tuned too much for it's tuned way too much for the unce, 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 unce in the organ stuff. You know, there are more frequencies than those things. But
hey, we need to make sure Sandstorm works. All right.
No, we don't. Becher also said that he's his concern has actually grown a little over the last 6 months when it comes to the Downtown West Google development. And that has to kind of raise your hackles, because remember, the Sharks they're here till 2026. That's only 4 years away. After that, they're year by year until 2040. Now, granted, they have it set up that they have to give like a 3-year notice, but still, 3 years goes by pretty quick. So it's a little concerning that he's concerned that the development, there haven't been more talks, but the bottom line is they really want the Sharks to give up control of lots A, B, and C. And as of now, the Sharks are still not willing to do it. That is their kind of ace in the hole. Bend them over backwards. I mean, negotiate the hell out of that. Let's do some horse trading, people. But when it comes to the development, that evidently is supposed to begin about a year from now, and that'll be somewhat light, but evidently it should get massive 2 years from now. It's one of those things. We will see how this all plays out. Just start documenting it now, and then you can put a book together, have Randy Hahn do the the preface of it. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's just as Bordelot, Eklund, and Tristan Robbins and Ozzy Weisbrot get this team back to where it should be.
Yeah, they're not going to be able to get into the building because of all the construction.
Exactly.
Now, of course, a lot of people have talked about the Sharks need to rebuild. And he was asked, does Hasso support Doug Wilson's plan? This I want to get into. Pay particular attention to the words that Jonathan Becher uses.
It's hard for me to speak on behalf of Hasso, other than he is really supportive of the team and will continue to spend to the cap to get us back in the playoffs if we don't make it this year. So yes, he likes the direction we're headed on. Yes, he watches all the young players, including those that are back in Europe. And that factors in his decision. Would he like to see us win more games now? Of course he would. But does he feel like we're headed in the direction? Yes. Would he like us to move in that direction more quickly? Certainly so.
Here's my point. Not once did Jonathan Becher say Doug Wilson. This is, he's into the team. He wants to see us do better, blah, blah, blah. Not once was there a Hasso believes in Wilson's vision. Maybe I'm making a mountain out of a molehill, but I read body language fairly well. I don't know. People hem and haw, and they don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't know. Remains to be seen.
Yeah, I'm a little iffy about that, but I think later on he talked about being a part of our plan and it being part of being not just Doug's ideas and such. It was also Becher and it was also Hasso coming together.
No, I get that, but he was asked specifically, does Hasso believe in Wilson's plan? So take that for what it is. I asked about one of the big promotions that I heard a lot of people question was, what happened to that cool top of the tank thing where it was like I could get like a great rate on season tickets, and granted, yeah, they're in the nosebleeds, but they were for a fraction of the price. Is that coming back? And so I asked him about top of the tank, and he thought of some different ideas.
We will not bring back exactly the top of the tank promotion the way it is, but yes, we plan to bring back something which will be named something else, not top of the tank, which will be a stripped down membership without all the other benefits at a very low and affordable price. So yes, AJ, but with a change based on feedback from members and non-members that wanted something slightly different.
So I like that. I like the idea of in-seat upgrades, but it has to be worthwhile, though. That's the thing that kills me is that sometimes you'll see some of these things about I'm in, I don't know, 227 row 17, and you can look on your phone and it's like, if you want to move down 10 rows, it'll cost you like $40, an extra 40, and you're kind of going, that's a lot. It's like, I'm already up here. Like, to me, it's like, well, wait a minute. Is that seat not going to be used whatsoever? And that's the whole thing is, well, what's to say I just don't go down there and use it and not pay you a dime? You know what I mean?
Sure, and that's I did use that option in years past when they had that, where you were like, oh yeah, 218 row 9. No, I'm with Puck Mom. I know she likes to be like on the last row in the lower bowl. Let's see how much. Oh, $30. That's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
No, when it's $30 and you're moving down like a handful of rows, no,
Yeah.
that's not worth it. Find that algorithm per se, and it'll be a big benefit,
Well,
especially once you're in the building.
Becher, of course, was asked about the big R word. Can we ever say rebuild in San Jose?
We are highly unlikely, and I never say never, highly unlikely to go through a proactive rebuild. It seems difficult to ask people to sign up for 3 or 5 years worth of fulls or partial season tickets and tell them we're intentionally not going to be good for those 3 or 5 years. Having said that, we are going to get younger. We are going to get faster. We are going to make some changes. And that's the part we're going to market to fans and focus on.
Now, here's my problem with this. I get it that it's, how do you sell a 3-year ticketing plan to somebody if you know that you're not going to be very good for those 3 years? I look at it, 2 ways. Well, maybe during those 3 seasons, you sit there and say, hey, we don't plan to be very good. Seats, this plan would normally cost you X dollars, but because we're on this trajectory and we're rebuilding, it's going to cost you Y. But you can, lock in for 3 years at X price, but know that at the end of it, it's not going to be Y anymore. It's going to be Z. But if you lock in for 6 years, you can keep X price the entire time. You know what I mean? So, I think there are incentives you can place there and still be honest and say, because what about the person that's held season tickets for 10 years that is an astute fan who looks, they know the Sharks have missed the playoffs for the last 2 years. They're not going to make the playoffs this year. Chances are high they're not going to make it next year. So, look, again, it's one of those things. Don't insult the fans' intelligence. Just give them an incentive to stick with you through the rough times. I think fans are far more accepting of the idea of a rebuild or that it's going to get worse before it gets better if you're honest with them and they can see that roadmap. Present them show some highlight videos and introduce them now to players like Robbins and Weisblatt and Gushkin and Gaudreau and all those players. Get them already kind of emotionally involved in the youth and what's coming down the pipeline now.
Absolutely. And, that first year in the CUDA Arena next year, who knows how many of those guys that you just mentioned are going to be in the new CUDA building. But here's the one thing we did last night on After Dark was the poll question is, are you willing to sit through and support and go to the game during a rebuild? And we had 60% of our viewers say, yes, we're okay with it. I think a lot of the fans already, let's be honest here, they're already rebuilding, but at the same time, they're like, okay, let's do this already. Let's get back to this. We see
your question was phrased differently.
Already talking about it.
The poll question was phrased differently. It was that, would you stop going to games if there was going to be a rebuild? And you had some people said, yes, I would stop, or I've already stopped attending, or I would still continue to attend. Now, the problem with that is that there are fans outside of this area that they would support a rebuild, like they'd still buy merch online or whatever, but they don't, the fan in Idaho that just can't go to games, but they still are invested from a location outside of the Bay Area. They would still support it and want that to happen. That was brought up during the show last night. That where was the option for that fan?
Right, and there's that. I mean, or them visiting for another arena. But the thing is that I think there are a lot of fans that see the writing on the wall, or they already see. Let's face it, we're not completely through the teardown yet. We're already on its way. They just haven't officially declared it. And I think some people, and as you said, they're frustrated by
The only people that don't
already.
people that don't think the Sharks are rebuilding right now are the Sharks. Ricky pointing it out from last night is that the poll was flawed. There was no "I've moved away" option. Which is, man, how bad are the Sharks?
That's true.
Is that you're like, oh crap, I just have to move out of San Jose. It can't get any worse. But oops, let's clear that out. But Becher also brought up, with the point of attendance, the fact of the matter is there's a lot to do in the Bay Area.
I think the reality is that our market, in particular in Northern California, there's a fight for share of entertainment dollar, not just sports, but all of entertainment whatsoever. And if your product is not engaging, people don't interact with it frequently. And I think we've seen that from time to time. You can ask any of the professional sports teams in Northern California and beyond as well. Does attendance correlate with how good your team is? And almost invariably, every one of them will tell you yes. Having said that, it's also just sports is about winning. I know other teams in other markets have intentionally non-won. That's not Hasso's style. It's not my style either. We want to win every single year we can.
I've never heard. We've not. What did he say? Something about intentionally non-won? You mean tanked?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, okay. Certain teams, or they've been put in position. You know, if you don't ice a competitive team on purpose, it's not that the players aren't playing as well as they can. It's just that they're just not as talented as the other teams. But that's on the front office, and there you go. I mean, that's, to me, is considered taking when you're purposely not icing the best team you possibly can. But look, they're going to sit, you know, of course, Becher, Doug Wilson, everybody is going to be like, no, this is not a rebuild. We can't afford to rebuild. And again, yeah, it's like you're competing with the Niners for your entertainment dollar for, you know, during the months of April, and hopefully for the Bay Area baseball teams, October, you're competing for that entertainment dollar. But of course, the Warriors, and that doesn't even take into account the fact that it's like, hey, we're in this area, you're a half an hour from the beach. You can go surfing or do stuff like that. You're 3.5 hours from skiing. I mean, there's a lot to do in the Bay Area, concerts, all the other stuff that people will spend their money on. So yeah, the Sharks are going to have to do a lot to engage fans and put on a show. Like, they're going to have to take a page out of Vegas's playbook when it comes to in-game presentation and say, maybe we need to be a bit more over the top.
And it's about marketing. I mean, let's be honest, AJ. The what got this organization running was how great they were at marketing. How they got the logo, the jerseys, teal and black. They gotta find new ways and ideas, and
or maybe old ways. Perhaps go back to the original jersey. Just saying.
Maybe.
Like, it's literally, when it comes to jerseys, no one ever says a bad thing about that jersey.
No,
nobody. The only people that I've heard say anything negative about that jersey is they say, "Oh, I think the original logo, like I love the jersey, but I wish it had the current crest, but on that jersey." Now, we've done mock-ups. It doesn't look right. It doesn't jive. But every single person who has ever uttered that, I go, when did you become a fan of the Sharks? Was it after 2007? Every single person? Yes. So I'm going, that's why you don't like the old logo, because you weren't a fan of them when they had
it. And like I've said many times before, they can alter it a skosh.
No, don't alter it.
Hey, I kind of like I would love to have the circuitry in the gray. It just as a little Easter egg. Be like, well, I've had the old one. Why am I going to get the new old one? They're
Yeah, okay, they can do a little something, but
just saying.
the Adidas thing is enough. But yeah, it's when it comes to that, there's just so much going on in the Bay Area that I can understand that from that perspective. So again, you have to be more engaging. Maybe it comes down to, instead of saving on ice projection for opening night in the playoffs, maybe that's part of in-game presentation every game. Stuff along those lines. Something else that was brought up was the CUDA Arena. The new CUDA Arena is coming in on time and on budget, which is a shocker in the Bay Area. It should open next August. It will hold non-hockey events too. They're looking for 120 to 130 events per year. Last I remember hearing about, they also plan to use it for league games when it's not in use for the Barracuda or whatnot. For me, I think a missed opportunity would be is if they don't try to use it in some way, shape, or form to hold concerts. Like there are some artists, I hate to say it, but two of my favorite groups, Evanescence and Hailstorm, played at SAP Center last November. I don't know that there was, more than 5,000 to 6,000 people there, just because, unfortunately, at least for me as a rock fan, the Bay Area is not a big area that has a large contingent of rock fans. But you look at SAP, it's like, well, they can hold, 17,000, 18,000 for a concert. Shoreline can hold 18,000 for a concert, but not everybody is Taylor Swift and can sell out Levi Stadium, in 50,000 seats. So there are some artists that they can draw, but they're not going to fill SAP. Use the CUDA Arena.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Options. I mean, you have the small venue with the CUDA Arena. You have a mid-size indoor facility with the Shark Tank. Of course, Levi's when you're Coldplay, T-Swift, Rolling Stones, whatever.
Coldplay ain't selling out the Levi's.
But more so getting back on the sports side, they talked about maybe basketball in there. I would love for San Jose State to make the jump, kind of like what Arizona State did, and jump into D1 NCAA. I think that would be a huge thing for San Jose State sports.
Well, and if I haven't looked, but if developing the CUDA Arena, if they're smart, they use all the LEDs possible. So just like SoFi, just like where do the Jets and Giants play? What's the name of that? Not the
MetLife Stadium.
MetLife, yeah. See, I always want to call it the Meadowlands. But just like both of those facilities, snap of a finger, and it goes from Giants blue to Jets green. And if they can do that where they can snap their finger and it goes from orange and teal to blue and gold for San Jose State, then that is just one more thing to kind of drive people getting more and more into hockey, and it'll definitely be something else that's more affordable to get fans into hockey.
And not to the least of which you can like for San Jose State 10 years ago, they used up a majority of the facility for a national championship tournament for club hockey. Obviously with USA having like figure skating championships, that can be an alternate site to do. You can also have, the Pee-wee or high school championships in there.
All right, let's not get crazy.
Oh, we can get crazy. Come on.
But I want to, I'd love to see that venue as a multi-purpose thing just take off. Another way, another use, of course, for it too, when they do events like sampling with the Sharks or whatever, where they're only going to have 500 people anyway, what do you need to open up SAP for when you can simply have it at the CUDA Arena? Yeah. So, by the way, Jonathan Becher also said the name of the arena should be announced within a month. So last I looked, it will not be Teal Town USA Arena, unfortunately.
Damn it.
But I'm gonna laugh my ass off if it ends up being Barracuda Networks Arena. It better not be. I hope it. I hope Cisco, like Cisco Pavilion or something, or
Adobe Arena.
call it the mini SAP, mini SAP. I don't know. And then when it comes to that, of course, all of these venues, they need people working there.
We're not quite at pre-pandemic levels, AJ. We're last I looked, which was probably last week, at 80-ish%. I think trending towards 90% by the end of this month. So we'll get there, certainly by the end of the season, but hopefully sooner before that. But we're almost there. It's been tough though. Retraining the entire core, which we almost have, this takes a lot of work to get to our standards. And you kind of have to work 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games before we know we're the right place for you and you're the right person for us. So we don't, just because we sign somebody up doesn't mean they stay forever either.
So I think what we've learned is don't piss somebody off, blue coat, or you could get the door. No, I'm kidding. Nicholas in the chat bringing up a good question. Do they know what the capacity for the new CUDA arena would be for basketball or concerts? Basketball, I would imagine it wouldn't increase by much. You know,
I would think they add a couple hundred seats courtside, but that's it.
Yeah, if that. As for concerts, kind of the same. I mean, the stage is probably going to take up, roughly 30% of the floor, but then you lose any seating behind the stage. But, it'd probably be roughly the same. But I'd say, somewhere between 4,200 to 4,800. But again, there's venues like, say, the Warfield, where you've got a band that comes in and plays 3 nights straight at the Warfield. Or same thing with like the Fillmore or whatever. Like, here's a venue that might be able to satisfy that group. And if it's developed correctly, because like Fillmore, Warfield, again, very old venues, but just like SAP have been reconfigured and changed and upgraded. But even the San Francisco Civic is just an old, dated barn out in the middle of nowhere. So, although it's not like the new CUDA Arena is like in some mecca, but, either way, fact is, it's another option. I hope the Sharks take advantage of it to maybe introduce the idea of having a venue that you could hold music events in. I've seen concerts at SAP where they got the blackout curtains down because they simply can't sell enough. Move those events to the CUDA Arena. So, and then finally, of course, the question on everybody's mind is, how is Doug Wilson doing? This is another one where pay attention to how Becher responds.
Between Joe and I, we talk to him relatively regularly. He's asked us to keep his situation private, and I think we want to respect his privacy, but he's doing reasonably well, but there's no timetable for when he might return at this point.
Okay.
So, there's no timetable for his return, but it just, that seemed like an odd response where he goes, he's doing reasonably well. Well, like in relation to what? You know what I mean? Like, it's like, well, he I don't know, got a splinter, but we have high hopes. I mean, like, it's just like, just say, hey, you know what? There's no timetable for his return. We respect his privacy, and that's all we have to say until Doug is willing to say more. I don't know. Like, I appreciate that Becher was trying to be forthcoming, but the wording, I was just reasonably well, and I just instantly in my mind, I went, compared to what?
Yeah, well, that's the tough part, is that you don't know what's going on, so you can't compare it to anything. Matter of fact is that something's going on. Let's hope that let's hope DW's getting treatment and hope he's doing okay and gets better soon.
Treatment for what?
And we, well, that's up to Doug's family to
No, I know,
declare.
but I'm just saying, it's like, well, how do we know he's getting any type of a treatment? Maybe it's just rest. Like we just don't know. And I'm not saying he has to tell us. I'm just saying, I don't know. I would have chosen my words differently, but again, I appreciate at least Becher attempting to be forthcoming in that regard, because I can certainly understand if his response simply would have been, it's a personal health matter, it's none of your goddamn business, and we'll leave it at that. We still talk to him regularly. He's in communication with Joe Will, but we got this. Don't worry. There you go. But there is a target date for me to look forward to, and that's April 23rd. For those of you who do not know, April 23rd is when the San Jose Sharks host a team that Doug Wilson used to play for.
Oh, yes.
It would not surprise me if the Sharks, if we have a healthy Wilson, maybe, because from now, or from since it happened till today, has there been any mention of Doug Wilson going into the Hall of Fame at a Sharks game? Not that I know of, but if they're going to do something, that'd be the time to do it.
Yeah, and it was like just a little bit after he got in and was enshrined in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, it was like within 2 weeks, because we actually put in a request to speak with him about it. And that's when it's like, well, he's taking a leave for right now. And it's like, but when he returns, we'll let you know. And I was like, okay, cool. And I'm like, where are we at now? But it is what it is. We'll spend these last couple minutes here. If any of you have any follow-up questions in the chat, we'll be more than happy to take them right now. The Barracuda can't get into their new barn fast enough because they're tired of getting their ass kicked everywhere else. What's the score right now?
It's 5-1 Bakersfield. They score. Bakersfield scored a power play goal, 3:24 into the second period, and that's the last update we have. 5-1 Condors over the CUDA at this moment.
Oh, here's a good one from Anthony. Will the CUDA Arena televise games? They don't now. I don't know why they would. Here's the thing. Kind of, who is it? It's the San Jose Giants have their games on Xfinity, right?
Yeah, on like the Comcast community channel or something like that.
They need to work with them. I mean, Jesus Christ, all you need to do is drag the equipment across the parking lot.
I think the San Francisco Bulls had some games on there a few times in their brief year and a half existence.
Would not surprise me. So,
if they could, and that's key to marketing both the Sharks and the development of the Sharks with the CUDA.
See, and that's always been the thing that I've questioned. I understand the Barracuda feeds the big club. Totally get that. Makes sense. Sure. Understand it. And look, the big club pays the bills. Sometimes I feel like the Sharks are hesitant to promote the CUDA anyway whatsoever, because they're going to sit there and go, well, wait a minute, we can go watch hockey. They're wearing the same damn uniforms, for Pete's sakes. My 7-year-old is not going to know the difference, and I can take them to a game for a fraction of the price. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And yep. I sometimes I wonder if that's, the primary reason why you never see just about any promotion of the CUDA. I think it would behoove the Barracuda, keep the name, by all means. Keep the logo. You might want to think about jerseys that aren't identical to what the big club plays in. Differentiate yourself a little bit. Get a couple different colors going.
I know Aesthetics did a recent video on if you should match, whether or not you should match your parent club or not. Hey, that means we have to buy more jerseys.
Exactly.
And for you and me, that's a great thing.
I will tell you, there's been times where I looked at buying a Barracuda jersey because I really like that SJ logo.
Absolutely.
But I sit there and I go, well, aside from that, what's the difference?
Yeah.
You know, but if they had their own cool design, different colors, I'd be like, yeah, I'd be down with this. Like I mean, the Stockton Heat, to me, like they share a similar color palette to Calgary, but it's still different enough.
Yeah.
Well, and not to mention the fact that, you know, the clubs, there's a little bit more distance between the Stockton Heat and the Calgary Flames than there are between the Barracuda and the Sharks. San Diego Gulls, they share orange, right? But don't the Gulls have like a blue and the Ducks have like gold and black?
Yeah, the Ducks are orange, black, and gold, while the Gulls are orange, black, and kind of like that sky blue.
Yeah, so like you can share like one, like a primary color, but don't share, like you got to infuse something else. Like, again, to my point earlier, return to just teal, white, black, and gray, eliminate all the orange, go back to your old school stuff, Sharks, and boom, Barracuda you can orange it all up.
Let's not. Just no.
Yeah, I don't want
to. I think there should be still some connection with teal and black, no matter what. But I will say this. I have noticed that a lot of their social media stuff has pretty much eliminated all their orange.
Yeah, I think it would not surprise me in the least if the Barracuda are actually the ones that go with the retro uni. Yeah. With the SJ on the front. It wouldn't. In fact, you know what? Like, we want foreseen points for this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because
I'll do the mock-ups right now.
We've already seen the Barracuda because they separated from Barracuda Networks. We already saw their crest switch. Now they have the SJ. Look, you still got to sell that merch. This is a perfect time, especially to my point. How many jerseys are you really going to sell when it looks identical to the big club that everybody knows?
Right.
You know, and I guarantee you there's some uninformed fans somewhere. They see somebody wearing a Barracuda jersey and they're like, when did the Sharks wear that? I've never seen that before, because they're completely unaware that there's a Barracuda. You know, you go to Santa Cruz and they'd be like, I've never seen the Sharks wear that before. Yeah, dude, because it's a Cuda jersey.
Never know.
I like Big Bird in the chat. AJ, a voice of consistent reason. Why, thank you. That's all I'm trying to do. Let's see. Sharks last. That awesome SJ logo. Wish they'd kept that orange jersey around. I always thought that it stood up for the Cuda. I hate that jersey, and I completely agree with you. They should have kept it.
Right.
I'm not a fan of orange. It's just like, because I don't know, like I can't wear orange, and I feel like I'm an M&M or something. Like I just don't. That color does not flatter me. Oh, look, the Barracuda scored.
Hey, there we go.
But I'm telling you, I love it when the San Francisco Giants play on Orange Fridays. Those orange Giants jerseys look chef's kiss. Love it. And how obnoxious is that to go into a barn and you just see a whole bunch of eye-blistering orange? That would be great for the Cuda. I mean, and dude, just get a thing with like fucking Orange Crush or something. Orange Crush Arena. That would be great. What's the Anthony saying? Most AHL teams keep the same color as NHL team. Most, but not all. And plus, you also have to take into account too that there's been so much relocation and movement. You know, even the Worcester Sharks. Remember, they've used the old logo.
Yep.
And they had that W crest, they share the color palette. But again, it goes to my point. They're on opposite ends of the country. And last I looked, Kentucky Thoroughblades, not even close to the same colors as the Sharks. Cleveland Barons,
Fairly close, but yeah, I get your point.
Well,
but they definitely had a different uniform, though.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I said Cleveland Barons, and you're right. What I was thinking was Kansas City Blades. But
Oh, gotcha.
yeah, but the Barons, yeah, okay. And see, the Barons to me, that's the move. Like same color palette, vastly different crest, vastly different jersey design.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the play that the CUDA take a page out of the Cleveland Barons book. Yeah, I think that'll do it. If you want to watch a Barracuda game, just go to Stanley's, go to Solar for America, get AHL TV. So I think that'll about do it. I think the Sharks play tomorrow. Is that right?
They play tomorrow. They play Thursday.
3
in
and
black
4. 3 and 4.
To take on the New York Islanders, and then back-to-backs with Boston and their nemesis, the Kraken, on the weekend.
That's gonna suck. All right. So if you got any more questions about the Becher media call, well, I'm sure our boys Fashelka and Corey on The Athletic and Shang, they're all going to have some, if they don't already, I'm sure they're going to either have a transcription or they'll have their takes on it. But we just wanted to take this time to share, so some people like to read, some people just like to listen while they get other shit done. So we try to fill that void. Hopefully we answered any questions, shared some video for you so you could actually hear it directly from Jonathan Becher. Look, I'm not excited for the rest of this season, the way it's going to play out, but I said it from the beginning that it's like this is not a playoff team. Didn't expect them to be a playoff team. But I'm excited to see at least the things that they can implement. Can they take between now and October to get back to instilling that defensive strength that they had early on? Can they figure out a way for Erik Karlsson to play a full 82-game season? I'm interested to see it. Can Meyer continue the pace that he started this season? Things like that.
Can Hurdle?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know for which team.
Exactly.
Yeah. So there's going to be a lot to talk about between now and March 21st and the end of the season. But that's where we're at, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight. He's Puck Guy 14. I'm AJ_Strong on the social media stuff. Remember to hit the subscribe button. Tell a friend about this. Hit the thumbs up if you would. We'd certainly appreciate it. What's a poll question for tomorrow?
Would you buy a Tomas Hurdle jersey if he gets traded to Vegas?
Oh, first off, I don't think there's any way in hell he goes there. Well, they can't afford it. Well, they'd have to move. Yeah, they'd have to make a hockey trade. But that's a kick in the balls, man. Like if he was traded to like the Rangers, absolutely buying one tomorrow.
I'd wish they had their reverse retro if they did.
Yeah, but I'm buying what pretty much any team but Vegas probably. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Oh man, that's a great question. I can't wait to see the results from that. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We will catch you tomorrow for After Dark following Sharks and Canucks. Good night, everybody.